Hey everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to look at the Pioneer metagame from the last week, from the 26th of September to October 2nd. When we look at this metagame, it's going to be primarily from League 5-0s, from Prelim 4-0s, and from top 32s of Premier events, from which there were 3 of this past weekend, 2 Super Qualifiers and a Challenge. So let's jump right into the data. First off, no surprise here, Red-Black Midrange is the top of the metagame with 12.6%, followed pretty closely by Green Devotion, and then Red-Black, and I paired Red-Black Sack and Jund Sack together with 7.9%. Now, Red-Black Midrange and Green Devotion have been the top 2 dogs for a while now, but seeing what that third deck is, I think matters a lot. So Red-Black Green Sack being the third deck is pretty sweet, because that deck has a lot of play. It is very different than just like a big dumb guy combo deck and just like a straightforward mid-range deck. But you'll notice that Red-Black / Jund Sack are not that far above a lot of these other players like Bant Spirits, Abzan Greasefang, White Humans, even Red-Green Aggro. But let's look at the top dog here. So Red-Black Midrange is exactly what you think it's going to be. It is creatures that give high value and removal spells, looking to 1-for-1 with you and eventually like play better cards than you. This has been the top dog for a while and is being pushed farther and farther by awesome content creators like Misplaced Ginger. Next up is Green Devotion. Now, this is actually my favorite deck in Pioneer, and I actually did a deck tech and sideboard guide for this deck. What it essentially does is it plays big dumb guys and planeswalkers, enabled by these cards like Storm the Festival, where you get to put multiple things into play the same turn. Its sideboard is primarily a Karn board, so you play Karn the Great Creator, and you get to grab things out of your sideboard and kind of toolbox your sideboard, which is awesome. And then there's a couple pretty insane infinite combos that allow you to win the game, mostly centered around Pestilent Cauldron. And then Red-Black / Jund Sack is based around this card Mayhem Devil, which says when a player sacrifices something, it deals 1 damage to any target. And then so you play enablers like Witch's Oven and Deadly Dispute that enables that, and you get to draw more cards. And you play creatures that don't mind being sacrificed or sacrifice things on their own, like Corvold. One of the deadliest combos in this deck is you claim the firstborning your opponent's creature and then sacrificing it either with Witch's Oven or Deadly Dispute. So you get an attack in, you get a removal spell, and then you also get like whatever benefit is of the thing that you use to sack with. But these are the top 3 decks in the metagame. But let's look at the top 8s of the Premier events and see if there's anything different. Now, this graph is the percentages of the decks that top 8'd in the 3 Premier events this past weekend on Magic Online. You'll notice that number 1 is Green Devotion, though it was number 2 in the metagame. I don't find this super surprising at all, because Green Devotion in the metagame wasn't actually that far behind Red-Black Midrange, so putting a ton more into top 8 is not a big deal. However, you'll notice quickly on Green Devotion's tail is the Sack deck that we just looked at. Now, the Sack deck being at 2 is a big leap, I think, because I don't think the Sack deck had that many more decks in the metagame compared to a lot of different decks like Abzan Greasefang and Blue-Red Phoenix and Bant Spirits. And then number 3 for putting decks into top 8 in Pioneer this past weekend was Bant Spirits. So Bant Spirits, like I said, was not that far back from Sack, could have easily been one of the top 3 in the metagame. However, I think the big surprise here is Red-Black Midrange isn't even in the top 3 for putting things into top 8, even though they had the most decks in the metagame and existing by quite a bit, especially when Green Devotion is out of the equation. So that's a giant leap. So maybe Red-Black Midrange is falling off. Maybe a lot of people are playing it, but playing it like poorly. Maybe people have figured out how to play against Red-Black Midrange and how to tune their decks to not lose to it as much. But for the decks that it is like putting into place, it is not having the results that one might think. But we have a new player in top 3 as far as putting decks in the top 8, and that's Bant Spirits. So let's look at that deck. So Bant Spirits is a Spirit tribal deck. It plays a bunch of the Spirit Lords and also like Flyer Lords. A lot of these Spirits are utility spirits, things like Selfish Spirit or Remorseful Cleric, that can do things in addition to be big dumb flyers. And you have cards like Rattle Chains to protect your spirits, or Mausoleum Wanderer to protect your spirits, or even Spectral Sailor to be able to get card advantage. And all of this is supported with cards like Collected Company, where grabbing multiple spirits and like untapping and having just an incredible board compared to what you had last turn is totally possible. I like this deck a lot. It's actually Sophie's favorite deck, which is really exciting that we see it doing well compared to the amount of decks that it is actually putting in the metagame. So there's the Pioneer metagame. If you want me to analyze it in any other way, please let me know in the comments. So before I move on and like sign out, something that I always really love to do is to look at a deck that is not that popular, or a deck I think might be on the rise, or a deck that just catches my eye, and give it a highlight. The deck I wanted to highlight this week is Atarka Red. This Atarka Red deck, I have lost to very convincingly quite a few times over the course of the last week, and is really picking up steam, and it is incredibly powerful. Now, it plays a bunch of small red creatures, things that attack efficiently, and then is supported by this card Atarka's Command, which can pump up your team and burn your opponent. And it doesn't look like much on the surface, but wow, is this deck incredibly fast. In one of the Pioneer Super Qualifiers this past weekend, I was 5-1 and got paired against this deck in round 7. And I did not play 8 turns the entire match. It was, as the green deck, it was really convincing how strong this deck is. And I think you should give it a shot, and I am definitely going to give it a shot at some point this week. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on other social medias. Links are above me and in the description. I hope to see you on Twitch and play some games. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.